Third down and 20.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the 3rd and 20 Dynasty Podcast. Big podcast coming at you. It's the one right after the Super Bowl. So you know what? I'm going to just throw it to Jake right now. Jake, what are your initial thoughts? Is Tom Brady immortal? Or is he just never going to lose again?
Dude, if you didn't think he was the GOAT before this, you have no excuse now. It's not Belichick. It's not the Patriots. It's goddamn Tom Brady. It is the Tom Brady system. He's proved it, hands down. He's the GOAT. I don't think anyone can debate that anymore. And I'm a Giants fan, obviously. We beat him twice in the Super Bowl, but still, he's the GOAT.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like no one really expected what was going to happen with the Bucs just destroying the Chiefs. I don't think anyone really could have predicted that. The Chiefs' offensive line was decimated by injuries. They just struggled to stop the Bucs defense. Devin White had a hell of a game. I mean, we're not really here to do recaps and whatnot because we are a Dynasty podcast, so we're more focused on that. I think the one main Dynasty point of note right now I'd focus on is that Patrick Mahomes needs foot surgery. They're saying that he should be fine and ready to come back for the regular season and whatnot, so I'm not too worried about that. The only other thing I was really watching, and you know, I'm very interested in is the Bucs running back situation. You know,
Playoff Lenny.
Yeah, Leonard Fournette just went off in the playoffs. I don't know what the Bucs' long-term plans with him are. But I think this could be a sneaky good time to buy Ronald Jones, get him as your RB3 kind of flex play guy. I think he'd be a nice cheap addition that you could just feel comfortable playing, weekly. What do you guys think?
I think the first thing that we have to remember is that Ronald Jones has been injured this entire playoff run. So I think that's one of the main reasons we saw playoff Lenny seeing a bulk of the workload. In the last two games of the playoffs, the NFC Championship and the Super Bowl, we did see Ronald Jones get a little bit more carries, but I agree with you, JT. If I'm looking to buy a running back, Ronald Jones he's still a young back. There's a lot of tread left on those tires. He really showed us this year that he could be the number one running back for that football team if asked. And at the end of the day, you wouldn't think of it, but his stats this year were a lot better than I was expecting. I was looking at the running back rankings, and you know, comparing Ronald Jones to all the rookie running backs, for example, the 2020 rookies, like Ronald Jones, I'm pretty sure outscored almost all of them. Not Jonathan Taylor, I don't believe, and James Robinson, I imagine, was also very close to him. But aside from them, like, he outscored a lot of those guys, and he still is really young with a lot left to prove. So I agree with you. I think that Ronald Jones is a pretty decent buy, especially if you don't have to pay a first for him.
Yeah, I mean,
I definitely agree. I don't think paying a first is worth for Ronald Jones here. I would want a much more established, proven back for my first-round pick. But I think this is a good buy. My question to you guys, though, is any stock left in Keyshawn Vaughn? Any?
Yeah, I still think
I want no parts of Keyshawn Vaughn.
So that's pretty much a very low-end draft pick.
I'd probably rather take the mid-third.
I don't think you can just write him off after one season in a system that, with Bruce Arians, has always been shying away from rookie backs. That he had a couple of mistakes, even though he had some good reps, some good plays. He just had a couple of crucial mistakes that kept him on the bench. Like, I don't think you can just instantly give up on him after 1 year. Like, if you drafted him, you might as well hold him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've seen a lot of mock drafts that even have the Bucs taking a running back, late in the first round this year. I don't personally think they will. I think they have other needs to address with some other upcoming free agents on the defensive side of the ball. But I think Keyshawn Vaughn might be another potential buy low here.
Yeah, 100. They're taking a pass rusher in the draft.
They have to. I agree. Their whole defensive line is like a free agent right now. So.
Yeah. That's why I'm not that concerned about them going out and drafting one. But when you think about it, right, Najee Harris is only like 5 months younger than Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones has been in the league. I think this is his third year. Like, Ronald Jones was just extremely young coming into the league. And, like, he's going to get bigger over time. He's probably been, going through weight training and whatnot. I think he's a solid buy because, he's getting lumped into, like, that David Montgomery kind of category. And I think that's really doing a disservice to Ronald Jones because I see... Like, we've seen game-breaking plays by Ronald Jones. Like, I just don't think David Montgomery has that other than his one run against the Packers this year, which the Packers' rush defense was one of the worst in the leagues. So, Ronald Jones is someone that you could probably buy for really cheap and someone that you could feel comfortable sliding into your flex. That's all I got to say about that. Anything else you guys want to talk about with the Chiefs game? I mean, Patrick Mahomes was running all over the place. Go ahead, Frank.
There's one thing that I need to bring up because I was low on this guy coming in, and I feel very vindicated after the Super Bowl. Instead of giving up on Keyshawn Vaughn, are we giving up on Mecole Hardman? Holy crap,
yes.
Was that a
Yes.
rough performance when they needed him most?
I never saw it in the guy either, to be honest with you. I think the Chiefs wide receiver is, like, it's kind of, downplayed and not talked about, like, how struggling they really are. Like, yes, you have Tyreek Hill, who's been able to, go off for over 200 yards in the first quarter against the Bucks before. But it's him and it's Kelsey. Sammy Watkins has been, very disappointing. He can play at times. He is always struggling with injuries. Sometimes DeMarcus Robinson looks like he's playing for the other team with the balls that he drops. They're just, like, placing his hands. It's just when him and Mecole Hardman are like your other guys that you gotta rely on. Like, I just think the Chiefs need to go out and they need to get wide receiver somewhere. Like, because this isn't cutting it. Like, Travis Kelce is only getting older. Tyreek Hill basically looked like a gadget player in the Super Bowl. Like, that's not something that you want to see out of someone who's very much considered a top 5 dynasty wide receiver. It's definitely an issue that people are not talking about. I mean, maybe they will now in the coming weeks because of all the, this is the last game and something everyone's going to analyze. But would you guys be surprised if they go out and draft a wide receiver, or if they go out and sign one for agency? I don't really know what the cap situation is, but yeah, right?
I don't even think the... Sorry, Lounis, real quick.
Go ahead, Frank.
I don't even think the question is if they take a receiver. I think the question is which type of receiver do they take? Are they going to go for a Rashad Bateman at the end of the first round and try and almost replace Sammy Watkins? Or are they going to go for more of someone like a Kadarius Toney and kind of try to have what they wanted out of Mecole Hardman, a guy that you can use as like a vertical player down the field as well as put the ball in his hands and make plays?
Yeah, and backing up Frank's point, initially you would think they'd go for, like Frank mentioned, someone to replace Watkins and kind of a bigger receiver like a Bateman. But I won't forget the report from last draft. The Chiefs were calling teams about moving up for Ruggs before he got drafted super early. Like, the Chiefs really wanted Ruggs last draft. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do go, like, kind of unconventional, not go another big receiver and look at guys like Frank mentioned Toney. I'm also thinking maybe Rondale Moore at the end of the first round. I wouldn't be surprised if they went one of those guys, or Bateman, Amon-Ra, one of those taller receivers.
I would love to see Tylan Wallace on the Chiefs. I'm putting it out there right now. This guy would be unbelievable as the number 3 option in the Kansas City Chiefs offense. He would provide everything that they would need. I just think he would take their offense to an even another level, and he's a guy that they could probably get in maybe the second round.
Yeah, they're picking at the end of the second round, but I think he should be there. My question is, though, you've got the Batemans, Moores, Chase. Obviously, Jamar Chase and Devontae Smith are not going to make it to pick 31, right? So we'll just cut them off. Just forget about them. But, Moore, Bateman, potentially Toney. I don't really know where NFL teams are on their players, and especially the Chiefs. That's who's going to be drafting. But if Rondale Moore or Rashad Bateman went not first overall, but went in the first round to the Chiefs, are they your wide receiver 1? Like, do they get bumped up that high?
I don't
Not
think
one.
they can get.
No.
I don't think they can get bumped up over Chase and Smith and potentially Waddle, depending on how bad of a landing spot he goes to. But he would definitely. Whoever gets drafted to the Chiefs as a wide receiver is going to immediately jump up everyone's boards. We saw it even happen with Mecole Hardman, who was just basically a speed guy at Georgia. So I think whoever goes there will shoot up boards. I just don't think over those elite talents.
I'm glad you guys didn't fall in my trap there, because that's exactly what happened with Clyde Edwards-Helaire last year, right? Because CEH was the 4th probably prospect for most people. Like, he was definitely behind Jonathan Taylor and DeAndre Swift, and then you had the likes of Cam Akers and J.K. Dobbins, like, just depending on preference of people, but they were pretty consistently ranked ahead of CEH. And then all of a sudden he gets drafted first round to the Chiefs, and he's getting picked in the first round of startups. And it's just like, you gotta temper expectations. Like, I guess the Chiefs, but there's only so much an offense can do, and when the prospect isn't as good as the 4 other prospects in front of him, like, it's hard to expect that much out of him. So while I think if Bateman goes there, he would be like definitely my wide receiver 2. I feel like Bateman on the Chiefs, but I'm still not willing to draft him over Jamar Chase, unless he just goes to an absolute terrible place. But even then, I think I still have Chase. But something that people have to remember, and I guarantee when the draft happens, people are just going to forget about it. People are going to forget about what's happened every year before, and everyone's failed and are going to be doomed to repeat the past. And that's just my warning. I'm saying it now in February, but come April, come May, everyone's going to do the same thing again. And I'm just going to sit here and say, I told you so.
So, before we move on, because I really like this topic, let's go back to what happened with Mecole Hardman. So let's just assume Kansas City, they need a pass rusher. Let's assume they take pass rusher at 31. And then with pick 63, I believe it is, they take, let's just say, Demetric Felton or Shi Smith or Nico Collins. Where are they going now? Because this is a pretty loaded class. I have to imagine they're sneaking into that end part of the first round, right?
I think they're in that next tier, because we just go back and listen to our tier episode. We did it last time, but I think he goes into that like 3rd tier, just because I think those guys are probably, we had him in our 4th or 5th tier, and I just think they'd move up a tier, maybe 2, depending on how high you are on a guy. I think you're looking at one of those early 2nd round wide receivers.
Yeah, I don't think I can go late first because and kind of the comparison with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we're generally, yes, that's true. But the case, I guess, more for Clyde Edwards-Helaire is we saw because you're thinking if they draft him first round, and which he was the first half of the season, he's the main only running back, and he was RB9 before they brought in Le'Veon and his injuries. But I think the logic with him was kind of like, you saw what Damian Williams did, and Damian Williams was a very good fantasy running back when he was starting for the Chiefs in 2018, 2019. Versus, so you're hoping Clyde Edwards-Helaire can fill that role and be even better. Versus if they draft a receiver here, I haven't seen like the number 3 target on the Chiefs put up consistently good numbers. Like at the end of the day, you're still the number 3 receiving threat on that offense. And Mahomes, while he does pass for a ton of yards, like he does spread it out a decent much. So it would be like a first where the number 3 in that offense put up a really good fantasy season. Because I don't think Watkins or anyone has had like, there's been good stretches, but there hasn't been like an entire season where like, oh, the wide receiver 3 in Kansas City is like a wide receiver 2 in fantasy. And by the way, when I say 3, I'm including Tyreek and Kelsey.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense because Travis Kelsey was one of the top receivers in the league with yards. But yeah, anything else you guys have to add before we move on to our next segment?